Alright, selamat datang, selamat sore, selamat datang di Digitalk pertama di tahun 2021 bersama saya, Josia Pasca Darmawan, sebagai moderator dalam diskusi kali ini. Digitalk pertama di tahun 2021 ini akan mengangkat Elevating Talent Management Through Technology Innovation. Jadi di sini kita akan berdiskusi tentang bagaimana sih caranya kita bisa mengangkat talenta-talenta Indonesia ini, kita bisa menggali talenta-talenta baru melalui inovasi teknologi digital, seperti itu. Nah, Digitalk kali ini merupakan hasil kerjasama antara CfDS, Center for Digital Society Universitas Gadjah Mada, dengan Bukit Vista. Dan bersama saya kali ini sudah ada dua pembicara dari Bukit Vista. The first one is Mr. Jing, the CEO of Bukit Vista. And then the second one is the HR Director, Human Resource Director from Bukit Vista, Ms. Kharisma Arafani. Hey, Jing and Ara, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing pretty well. It's exciting to be here to share some insight.
And we're excited to learn more from you two. And before we start the discussion, I would like to tell you first some information first. So, untuk diskusi kali ini akan dideliver dalam dua bahasa bilingual gitu ya. Nanti akan gantian bahasa Indonesia, bahasa Inggris, campur-campur kayak gitu, casual aja. Selain itu, aku juga ingin mengingatkan teman-teman sekalian untuk berpartisipasi secara aktif karena nantinya akan ada hadiah dari tim CfDS untuk penanya terbaik seperti itu ya. Nantinya akan ada Q&A session dan teman-teman sekalian bisa menyampaikan pertanyaannya mau dalam bahasa Inggris, dalam bahasa Indonesia, monggo silahkan. Jadi nanti teman-teman apabila ada yang ingin menyampaikan pertanyaan, nggak usah ragu-ragu, nggak usah takut-takut, aduh nggak bisa nih, agak pede nih pakai bahasa Inggris. You can deliver your question in bahasa Indonesia, and that would be okay. Nanti aku akan membantu untuk mentranslasikan seperti itu. Nah, selain itu, I also want to remind you guys to stay until the very end of the event. Teman-teman sekalian diharapkan untuk stay, untuk tetap menonton, tetap mengikuti diskusi sampai penghujung acara, karena nantinya akan ada e-certificate dari CfDS. Di penghujung acara nanti, tim CfDS akan memberikan mekanismenya gimana caranya teman-teman sekalian bisa mendapatkan e-certificate. Alright, so without further ado, let's start our discussion today. Panitia, are you ready? Okay, alright, so Jing, are you ready to start your presentation?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much, Mr. Pascal.
Alright. The time is yours.
Okay, fantastic. So I'd like to just say thank you to everybody for letting me speak. Thank you to my friends at CfDS. We've been cooperating with CfDS for a few of these webinars now, and we're very happy to have the opportunity to speak about talent management and development with technology innovation. So today, my objective is very simple. I want to inspire students to innovate in talent management. And I want to also inspire students to want to explore HR career here at Bukit Vista as well. So the format of my presentation is super easy, just 4 steps. First, we'll do introductions. Second, we'll tell you what we do here at Bukit Vista. Then I'd like to talk about how we manage talent during a crisis using technology and innovation. And the very last part, I'd like to invite people to apply for internships, but at very least complete a short survey so that I'll know how I'm doing. Okay, this is me. So my name is Jing Cho-Yang. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Bukit Vista. I graduated almost 20 years ago from UC Berkeley with a degree in electrical engineering and computer science. Previously, before starting my company, I worked at Airbnb and I worked at Aman Resorts. And as a fun fact, I was once an extra in a Bollywood movie. See if you can find me in this picture. If you don't see me, I'm the guy right here. So that's what I look like. when I was 20. So a little bit more. I'd like to also introduce Ara, who's on my team. She's our HR director. I'll pass it over to Ara for her own introduction.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, basically, hi everyone. You can call me just Ara. Currently, I'm doing the human resource as a director in Bukit Vista. And where I went to school, so I went to actually Universitas Gajah Mada, taking for the bachelor degree of tourism studies. And a little bit fun fact about me, I do shooting as sports, gun shooting. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty much from my side. I'll pass it back over to you, sir.
All right, thank you much, Ara. So let's get into this and speak a little bit more. So what is Bukit Vista? What do we do? As a company, we have a very simple mission. We inspire delight through hospitality innovations that positively transform guests, partners, and employees. So I know that sounds like a bunch of language, but let's go into what that actually means. We inspire delight by providing beautiful accommodations, mostly in Bali, that travelers coming from all parts of the world can experience. They can experience these beautiful villas in Ubud, in a rainforest, large villas that can hold a large family gathering here in Jimbaran, beautiful bamboo homes built entirely from bamboo in Ubud as well, barn-hired homes, tree houses, or cliffront villas. Altogether, we manage a portfolio of about 150 plus properties all throughout Indonesia, mostly in Bali and also Yogyakarta. Okay, so what it is that we exactly do, I'll go into a little story to help everyone understand. This is Pat Yudi. He's an actual partner of Bukit Vista. He has a villa called Despacito. He worked in the oil and gas industry, and he saved up some money, so he built and he owned his new villa. He has a brand new property. It took him 24 months to construct, and he sees it as an investment for years to come. The property is finished, but he wants to open it for guests and start making rentals, making income on his rental. But he has a problem. His problem is that the day he launches, there's a lot of competition from other people who have very good villas. Pat Yudi has no experience in management. Pat Yudi has no team. Pat Yudi has no budget to spend on hiring people. So this is where we come in as a solution. So we manage Pat Yudi's villa, and we find ways where our team ranks him on the top of search results on leading booking platforms. We hire a smart team with years of experience, and Pat Yudi can get our team's experience for free. Pat Yudi only pays a commission when there's a sale, and that is our overall concept. We manage as a service. So management as a service means that hospitality owner does not need to hire their own teams, that Bukit Vista keeps a team of experienced and smart, intelligent marketing, hospitality, finance, and revenue managers on hand. And owners only pay commission on each booking to us for management and success. Okay, that's a little bit of introduction about what Bukit Vista is and what we do. Let's talk about the theme of this discussion, which is talent management with technology. What does that actually look like? The first thing is to understand, what is the employee journey? The employee journey is I think, so vital and so crucial to understand for any HR program that wants to innovate. Innovation by itself without purpose is probably just fashion, actually. It's just kind of like changing things for the sake of it. But innovation with purpose needs to consider the employee journey. So what is the employee journey and how does it relate to our discussion today? There's 5 stages of the employee journey that I'd like to talk about. The first stage is awareness. This basically means, how are people aware of a company that they want to work for from the very beginning? After that, awareness progresses into intention. Now that a prospective employee wants to work at a company, how do they actually intend to express that intention of working there? The third phase is the evaluation, where there's an interview process and we understand more between the company and the prospective employee. The fourth phase is when the person is onboarded, and the last phase is retention. These are the 5 stages of the typical employee journey that I want to go in and explain more. Let's get into more details. The first phase is awareness. So what does actually awareness look like? Most awareness in traditional companies looks like a job ad or some other call for employment. At Bukit Vista, we think of awareness as an opportunity to inspire, an opportunity to add value to a potential employee's life. How do we do that? We have a program that we call BVE Talk. It has been proudly built and supported by our HR team and our PR teams. So what we do during BVE Talk is we look for industry experts with comprehensive, practical knowledge about different topics: marketing, human resources, data science, software development. And we invite them to talk, and we invite students to come also to learn with us. So this is how we first start awareness, using a more technological and also an innovative solution to drive that awareness. The next stage of after somebody is aware is that they express intent. So how is that intent expressed? They go through a process. We accept applications mostly from our website, bukitvista.com/jobs. So a prospective person who knows a bit about Bukit Vista would apply on our website. Once their application arrives to our website, we look at it through our company CRM, where we can understand a little bit more about the candidate's history, their background, and supporting materials that they've had. We also analyze our website using tools like Google Analytics, which are beautiful tools to innovate and make your websites more and more smart over time. We look at the Google Analytics to decide how to position our text, how to structure our things, how to build a more captivating tagline to attract more users to apply and complete the user journey. These are a way for us to innovate and also inspire delight at this stage of the employee journey. The next stage is the evaluation. So during the evaluation, we will look at CVs and backgrounds from our applicants. We will then interview our applicants remotely. Our applicants now come from anywhere in the world, and our interviewers now increasingly are from all over the world too as well. So this utilization of video conferencing technology to be able to recruit from a global talent pool is a very, very exciting innovation that we've developed here. That plus the data and the insights that we've gotten through our experience of recruiting has allowed us really to amplify and improve the way that we manage talent at this stage in the employee journey. Next stage is, of course, the onboarding. Onboarding is something we think about a lot here at Bukit Vista. So we document all of our company activity. We document all of our company activity using a specific tool called Dropbox Paper. Meetings, notes, all the things that happen, all hands meetings, these are all documented. So this makes the onboarding process simpler and more fluent for any new person who wants to join. They just simply need to read the history about what has been happening, and within a very short amount of time, they are as competent and as confident as more senior members about what happens here at Bukit Vista. Onboarding is a great opportunity to also deliver value and extend the employee experience through training and through acquisition of new skills through the tools that we provide. Our company uses tools such as Slack for messaging and planning and communication across all the different locations as a very remote team. We use Trello for project management and keeping track of the progress of our ideas and our implementations of these ideas. And we use Tableau to look at the data and analyze our progress of the projects and the things that we want to achieve. So the onboarding process here at Bukit Vista is very data driven. Our data is our asset, is our capital, and so are the people that work here. Combined together, we think that is a very, very strategic innovation that allows Bukit Vista employees to understand more and to confidently innovate progressively. That is the culture that we want to create here. And that gets me to the last theme of retention. Retention is something that, as in a startup that hires very, very almost exclusively with millennials and Gen Zs, we think a lot about how we want to retain our employees. So retention first comes from understanding what people want. Some people want a job, and those are probably a little bit more narrow horizons. Some people want a career, and we can provide that. Some people want a calling. They are simply here to work because this is what they've always wanted to do. When we hire and select, we are looking for the aspect of people who have callings, people who have demonstrated ability to think independently and pursue a goal to their own independent satisfaction. So in the retention program, we offer, as part of our retention program, we think of all aspects of the employee experience, from the leaders they work with, to the projects that they're working on, to the kind of exposure and professional networking that they will be exposed to. We keep track of things also using surveys, employee engagement surveys. This lets us know if our plans are actually working or if they are not working. These are all different aspects of how we use technology, data, and innovative ideas to create and manage a very, I would like to say a very leading talent management program here at Bukit Vista. Okay, the next thing I'd like to do is I'd like to step away from the slides and show you the reality of what it actually looks like to see Bukit Vistas from behind the scenes. So if you'll excuse me for a moment, hopefully everyone can kind of see where my screen still is. So if you're all with me right now, what you should be able to see is a YouTube page. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate what it looks like for an applicant who first discovers about Bukit Vista. So perhaps an applicant finds us through one of these talks, for example, and they want to follow up. They want to go back and see, hey, look, I know about Bukit Vista. I want to watch the end of that video that was at CfDS. So they can find content like that on our YouTube page. They can drill down into the content from our e-talks, from our promotional videos, from Startup Masterclass. These are all different programs that we offer to attract potential employees to apply at Bukit Vista. We also keep track on our analytics side behind on YouTube to see how our page is doing. We can see the number of views that have happened, the total number of watch times, and we can look and evaluate our most popular videos all the way down to a very finite level. After that, perhaps a candidate has decided that, yes, this is a company that they intend to work at. They will explore our website. They will look at essentially the job page and some of the offerings that we have. And this is the web page that I spoke about earlier that we continuously tune. We're looking for all different ways to make this website more attractive to get more applicants through to actually apply. So how do we do that? How are we able to understand what is the behavior of a potential employee on this site? Well, that's where we go to Google Analytics. On our Google Analytics page, we're able to look at all kinds of things, such as how many page views have happened, how many of them came from unique sources, what was the average time someone spent, how many entrances, how many people left the page as a bounce, and what were the percentage of exits. All this information here allows us to then describe and curate and improve the content on our website to attract more applicants and get more applicants to apply. Once the applicants apply, we need to keep track and evaluate how the applicants are doing. This is where we go to Trello. Applicants start their journey here on this list that is automatically brought to us from a really cool feature called Integromat that links to our website. All new applications appear here, and through the HR process, we will essentially bring an application forward and forward closer towards their career here at Bukit Vista through different stages of interviews, through different stages of evaluations, through an offer, and eventually hopefully bring them here and on site. So this is how we actually take use of project management software to get to where we need to go. And the last thing I wanted to show everybody was, hopefully you can still see my screen, but our employee surveys. So this is part of our retention stage in the employee journey. And this is where we survey and ask our employees, how are we doing? What can be done better? We're very specific about the questions we ask so that we get specific things that we can take as part of the HR team to improve and make the experience of employees at Bukit Vista even better. Okay, that being said, I'll go ahead and jump back into my presentation after giving you guys a behind the scenes look at how things are run at Bukit Vista. So if you like what you see, we just want to let everyone know that we are hiring. So if you'd like to join Bukit Vista and disrupt the hospitality industry, today is a good day. The roles that we offer in full-time position are human resource manager, community management manager, and host, air support, and reservation managers. We are available for internships in digital marketing, customer service and relation, finance administration, community management, UI, UX, business data scientist, and also internal tools and software development. As an example of what somebody might do as an intern or a full-time hire here in human resource, the mission is to hire and develop some of the highest potential talent in the world, lead innovation through company culture, and develop lifelong skills and career achievements. We have a lot of fun doing what we do on our mission, and we'll hope that you will want to consider joining us in the HR chapter. Marketing, we have a lot of opportunities to learn from some of the best experts in the world and build a world-class collection of amazing properties. We optimize performance on Airbnb, which is a leading platform for travel. We do vlogging, copywriting, storytelling, and we use amazing tools to get our job done. Community management. Community management looks after our partners, after the 150 property owners that trust Bukit Vista. They help improve our community with COVID-safe cleaning standards. They host webinars and speak to our owners one-on-one and build out the owner community. All right, that's the end of my presentation. I hope I haven't taken too much time. And just like the end of a Gojek ride, I hope that you can fill out this link and give me a review. Let me know how I did today at CfDS. Thank you very much for hearing me out, and I'll turn it back to the moderator.
All right. Thank you so much, Jing, for the amazing presentation. So just to summarize a little bit of what Jing already presented before, we all know that there are several steps when it comes to picking the best talents and also to retain those talents in the company. So Jing already explained so many software, so many steps that Bukit Vista has done to really pick the best talents out of so many best talents. So the best of the best, the creme de la creme of these talents, and how they recruit these talents and how they try to attract this creme de la creme of talents. And we also see how Bukit Vista use different softwares, different analytical tools to analyze the performance of the team, to also evaluate the working condition there, and to retain all these best talents in the company. And so that's the first session. For the next session, we will move on to discussion panel with Ara and with Jing. And I will deliver some questions to spark up the discussion between us three. For the first one, this is a prepared question from the team. As we all know, right now during the pandemic, a lot of people, especially the younger generation, have been trying to learn new skills, to upskill, as we say. What do you think about it? What's your opinion on it? And do you have any tips for a lot of young people out there on how to upskill, on how to improve our skills so that we can stand out against the other applicants?
I'll go to Ara first for that. First stab at it, maybe.
Okay, thank you for the question. That's actually interesting and very relevant to be discussed during the sessions. So basically, for what I'm thinking, I'd like to maybe give to dividing the discussion into two things. So first, maybe what to prepare first. What are the tips to actually developing yourself during this current time? So there are three things in the company that I like to echoing to everyone. That the first thing is always that growth mindset, self-learner, and bias to actions. So it's something starting from the very beginning. I think taking care very well about your self-development can be starting by selecting a growth mindset. So each individual person, each students needs to actually select that they have to be having this growth mindset. So what exactly growth mindset is mean? So growth mindset is a mindset where you keep on thinking that you need to learn every single time. You need to grow yourself in an extensive way, exponentially. So in that sense, you keep on learning, even though, so it's like the difference between the person that actually always feels starving and hungry about knowledge. So yeah, that's like the first thing. And then the second of all, about the self-learner. So the second tips is that I'd like to encourage every single individuals in here that are watching these videos to become a self-learner. So instead of expecting others to actually grow yourself, educate you, it has to be coming somewhere from within yourself. So it has to be like a self-awareness that you wanted to learn by yourself and seeking guidance by then. And then the last point is bias to action. So a couple of times maybe we have these hesitations to start, where we're confused or like, yeah, I want to learn, I have a growth mindset, but I don't know if I should start today or tomorrow. I'm not sure where to start and such. My advice is just start. It's the meaning exactly on bias to action, that you have to actually start to do what exactly is the plan instead of keep on planning, because what matters most is actually the action itself, right? So that's about what exactly you need to prepare. And then the second point is that about how. how exactly that you can actually develop yourself. First of all, maybe everybody, I'd like to encourage to understand self potentials and interests. I can understand that at some point, young people are uh, still trying to look and trying to understand better about their self potential, and that's fine. But at least each individual needs to know first what exactly they're interested about. So in that sense, after you find out where or what exactly your interest is, from there you can actually dig deeper about, oh, turn out I like to do this and it's something that I'm really good at. It's okay if it's not. Meanwhile, I think even if you're like you're interested to doing something and turn out it's not something that you're good at, I believe that along the journey you can find other things that you believe that, oh, I see that this is actually another thing that I'm good at. So those first thing about self potentials and interests need to be taken well notes in each person's. And the second of all, on how is that get the right tools and platforms for self development itself. As we know right now, we have a lot of things, I think unlimited platforms that we can use for self-development, whether the what is it the channels or platforms that you can get knowledge is very various, even like starting from platforms that specifically for educations like LinkedIn Learning or like a master class, until a platform that it's like actually media social, but I believe it also can educate people if they can use it very well, like YouTube, even Instagram, or even TikTok. So those things that if you use wisely, I think that it can actually educate each individuals. So that's like from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Ara. So, Jing, do you want to add something to that?
I think Ara said it actually quite well. I can't top that one. In terms of what I like about what she said is it's not, I think, one particular skill, but it's the skill of how to approach life, right? So I think that's probably the most valuable skill. Um, I know it can be kind of difficult during this time because there's competition and there's not a lot of jobs, and it's sort of bleak. But one thing there's a lot of these days is there's a lot of time, and I think like everyone who's young right now is probably experiencing the same marketplace. This isn't the pandemic has not spared a single location in the world. So what you do with your time actually becomes I think the number one thing to advance your career. If you spend your time wisely, developing experience and skills, and as Ara mentioned it, learning new things, maybe even volunteering somewhere. I remember I've lived through 2 or 3 recessions, and when things are really bad and I couldn't get work, that's why I became an entrepreneur. I volunteered. I just said, okay, fine, I'll find any way to get some experience. And just by doing that alone, hinting to what Ara just said about the bias to action, you'll find your way. You find your way if you take a step. If you always plan without really taking any action, you can plan yourself to death. You can, like say, okay, I'm going to plan, I'm going to do this, but at some point you should start seeing some feedback from the world. And I think that's where this aspect of getting some experience as soon as possible, any way possible, becomes very valuable. But yeah, I pretty much agree with everything that Ara just said.
All right. So I think it's very interesting. There's one interesting point that Ara brought up, which is on how we can turn ourselves into a self-learner. I think to self-learn is very important, especially during this pandemic, because um, face-to-face or in-person lessons is basically off limits in most places. So we have to resort to online learning, and this brings me to my second question, which is about online learning platforms. As we all know, we have a lot of online learning platforms. Recently, you can go to any website and suddenly they provide some online lessons. So I want to ask your opinions about these online learning platforms, and how someone can really pick which online learning platform that suits their needs the best, and how they can get the most out of these online learning platforms. And if you have some experience when it comes to learning something from these online learning platforms, then we will be so happy to hear that too.
Okay, so should I go first? I think I'm interested to trying to answer first, and then I go to Mr. Jing again. So from my side, what is my opinion about that? I do agree that digital platform is very much needed in the current situations, and it's been developing really well actually. So if you're asking about what is my preferences to learn, I think each individuals must have their own preferences in a way. It really is dependent. My personal thought is that it truly depends on what exactly they wanted to learn. It depends on what tools exactly that can provide the materials that they needed. But in general, let's say my personal selections, I really like to learn from LinkedIn Learning most and Masterclass. But LinkedIn Learning most, why I like the platforms is because they provide not just the materials as a video of person that is giving the materials, but also there's some sort of tasks they provided usually like paper sheet, test sheets like that. So yeah, that's like self preferences. And how I see it also, I think by having this online, online platforms of learning itself, it's helping and increasing the kind of working from sequence on everything. So what I mean by everything is not just about some sort of skills that the current individuals, the current people wanted to learn, but also effectivity of communication and coordination. So that's like extensively, right? You wanted to learn, let's say you wanted to learn about digital marketing, then maybe you could watch videos or reading some articles about digital marketing, but actually that can actually leads you to, I don't know, some sort of online discussions with others that also have sharing the same interest with you. And in that sense, it's not only developing your skills on digital marketing, but also developing your skills in communications. So that's also encouraged within the company. Our company in Bukit Vista, we encourage all of the talents to actually seek and learn from online platforms. We do suggest, we do have some suggestion on where exactly they can get the materials or which platform exactly. But most of all, I think again back to my first point regarding the self learner. I think every individual very unlimitedly can actually find which platforms that suits them well. So yeah, that's for me.
All right. Do you want to add something, Jane?
Sure, absolutely, Mr. Pasca. So I also agree with what Mara just said. LinkedIn Learning and Masterclass are two of my favorite platforms as well. I would also like to express my enthusiasm for this question. This is one of my favorite questions. So I think, okay, so how do I even begin? I'll begin maybe with a story. So the transition I remember from university to the real world in terms of learning was actually very challenging for me. And the reason why is because in university, I love to read, right? So I was a bookworm. I used to hang out in libraries all the time. When you're in a library at a university campus, you're in a curated room where all the material has been kind of sorted out for you, right? By layers and layers of scholars who have essentially filtered out the meaninglessness stuff and improved the quality of the content. But when you go out into the real world, you realize a lot of learning material is advertising actually, or it's actually bait, it's marketing. It's meant to actually get you to transact and become a customer. So I think there's just a huge amount of distortion and noise in the online learning world, especially if you use a platform that's very popular like YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Most of that stuff is a lot of it is marketing in disguise. So what's the solution? I would say the solution is one of the okay, this is kind of a weird way to say it, but one of the solutions is you get what you pay for. So if you want to have good content, LinkedIn Learning, Masterclass, these are all great content, but they're all paid platforms. Now, I know some people might be like, oh, I'm a student, how am I going to afford this? Get together with a bunch of other students and maybe buy a yearly subscription, right? And share the password. That might be a way that you can overcome I'd say, financial difficulty. But I think once you start seeing real content that is meant to educate rather than entertain, if you're reasonably intelligent, you will tell the difference, right? It's so nurturing, it's so truthful, and it gets you really to go to the next level. So the way I see it, ever since like I think this is also part of the self-learning cycle. A lot of people, they go to college and just like myself, their parents invest in them, right? Their parents pay for their education. If you really want to, let's say, progress as a self-learner, I would say I know now it's a very difficult time, but try to invest a bit of budget for yourself, right? For your own learning capacity, whether it's books, classes, associating with a community of people who are serious about really developing their skills, and not a community of people who are there to sell you something, I think is ultimately a really good way to develop the correct intuition for how to get online learning to work the best for you. Now, that being said, I don't want to say that you can't find really good mentors or gurus or sources on YouTube or whatnot, but the process is a little bit more, you have to sift through the filter. And there are really good, for example, I follow Chris Do on YouTube. I think he's actually a really genuine online marketer. He teaches a lot of good skills. But you have to kind of like really sift through. The platforms that work for us today, as Ara said, might not suit you if you want to learn a different skill. Like if you want to learn about, I don't know, geography, you probably won't find that on LinkedIn Learning or Masterclass. So I would say a very general approach to find material is you can trace it back. Go to the person who you want to be, right? Try to find out from that person, where did they learn their skills from? Where did they learn their materials from? Where do they go to get their information? Generally, most decent people, I think, would share that kind of information. And I think that would be a good way to get on track. Follow the right people that you aspire to be like, and ask them for advice. And I think you'll find that whole process very rewarding. That's my best answer for how to discover and implement good online resources for self-learning.
Yes, I think I agree with Jing, with what Jing said, that it's really difficult to shift through like all these contents and to really pick the best ones, because most of the times all these learning contents are basically marketing in disguise. So by subscribing to LinkedIn Learning, for example, or Masterclass, we can get the lessons easily because it's already curated and it's already trustworthy. Meanwhile, if we try to find like all these lessons from the social networking sites, let's say, such as Instagram or YouTube, we are not saying that there is no legit content in there, but we're saying that it might be a bit difficult to really, find the right content and find someone that really knows what they are talking about. And I think another interesting point is that on how online learning platforms can really improve non-digital skills. Because a lot of people perhaps think that, all right, if I'm joining an online platform, then most probably I'm only, improving my digital skills. It will be very difficult to find lessons that will improve my conventional, so to say, skills. So what do you think is the best way to, bridge this gap between online learning and improving one's conventional skills? Because sometimes when it comes to skills like, let's say, baking, for example, or cooking, you got to practice, right? It's kind of, it's a bit difficult to really convey like all the teachings, all the skills through online platforms. So there's got to be a way to really bridge like this little gap between the digital world and the more conventional or non-digital skills. So what do you think is the best way for that? Or is it like the technology nowadays already address like this gap? And if you have some experience, some knowledge on that, that you can share with the participants, with the audience today, it will be great if you can tell some stories about it. So Jing, do you want to start first?
Okay, sure. I'll give it a stab. Thank you. So that's a really good question. That's a really good question. So let me approach it a few ways. I have actually learned a lot of, let's say, conventional skills online. Let's say the techniques to how to negotiate better. That's a very offline skill, right? That's like talking to face. But recently in Masterclass, there was actually one of the best authors, Daniel Pink, who offered a really excellent class on how to do this. There was Samuel L. Jackson, also a famous actor, American actor, taught how to do acting with practice. So I agree that there's probably limitations to how far you're able to essentially develop your skill only online. I think this is where what Ara just said earlier about finding a community where you can practice this skill. That's where the skill actually starts curing and cementing in. So certain skills, yeah, of course, like let's say baking. Let's take the conventional way of learning how to bake. My daughter loves to bake, by the way, so I get to watch like her process this real time. So the conventional way to bake or cook, for that matter, is you read a cookbook and it's one picture and like maybe 20 instructions. So I realized during these 20 instructions, there's many different ways to interpret it. There could be like some confusion about what they actually mean. So you have actually a gap in your learning process in the interpretation of the material. I see online learning as let's say watching a video of how the baking process or watching a video of the cooking process, which pretty much allows you to visualize very clearly in the way that somebody is learning, let's say with a master chef, right? This process, it allows almost no distortion or confusion or wrong interpretation of the particular skill that you need to acquire. But are you going to be able to cook like Gordon Ramsay or Thomas Keller just by watching their videos? Of course not, right? I think you'll need to actually produce, and this is where online, I think, learning might reach an incomplete part, is that you're going to have to find a way to complete the feedback cycle of learning through another means. And what do I mean by that? So if you take, let's say, online learning, I'm learning how to bake, I watched the video, I got together the ingredients, I baked the actual thing, but does it actually taste the way it should? You won't know, right? You won't know if your actual muffin tastes the same way that it was made in the Gordon Ramsay video. So without knowing that, then you have an open loop learning process. You never really know, have I really understood this yet? Schools and like organizations usually tackle this with a test. They test you, and then that closes the feedback loop, and oh, okay, I must be good at this because I got 100 on the test. So when you don't have that feedback, that's where you need to find a way. My daughter uses kind of an interesting way. She tries to sell it, right? If her cookies sell and people say they taste delicious, then they're probably good, right? And that you're probably cooking like the way that you should. That would be my general approach to understand how to use online learning to acquire, let's say, conventional skills. That if you rely entirely on online learning, you probably won't develop your skill sets fully. But if you are able to supplement your online learning with a way to test or feedback or to bridge the gaps where the learning process is, then I think it could actually be a superior process than learning all conventionally. That's something I've noticed too. I'll turn it back to the moderator.
All right, so that's very interesting. So basically, there might be gap, but there are so many ways to combine like what happens online and what you do in real life, what you do offline to close that gap. So we already have some questions coming in. So we are moving on to the question. But before that, Ara, do you want to add something to that question before about, the gap between offline learning, online learning and stuff?
I see. Okay. So maybe just a little bit to add up. Yes, I would agree that some sort of skill set, like conventional and online, couldn't be really entirely rely on the online part. But I would agree also on how to keep on having a active flow of feedbacks from one another, whether it's your friends, whether it's your mentor. I think that's going to help a lot regarding keeping track whether the person that feel like doing things conventionally online is a new exposure to keep track whether it's going on track or not. That's one thing. And in as what I experience also, there are also person that is more comfortable with the conventional way rather than the online way. But it's actually going back to the very first point of mine of growth mindset and self learner. As long as I think, and as Mr. Maska already said, juga mentioned regarding, I think there must always be a way on learning new things that maybe previously we're doing it conventionally and now we're doing after things online. I think in a way, yeah, just find something that you think is very comfortable, and how exactly you find that various ways. Can be from your colleague, again, as I stated, colleague, friends, or mentors to keep it on tracks regarding the online learnings and online skill sets that you're trying to master. It's also in a way also I think everyone in our company also try experience before, because we originally before the pandemic time we're going to the base, we're going to the office every single day, and we have to shift everything remotely. It's also impacted HR as a skill set, that things that we used to do conventionally but it has to be online. For example, previously HR we need the skill set of talent identifications and talent development. Previously, it was pretty key to have that skill set sharpened by a physical contact or face-to-face interaction session, especially to read body language, gestures, and etc. But within the technology innovations, it's required human resource team to shift the ability to conduct and detect all the things needed online via Google Meet like this or any platform online, and it's then sharpen our skills to nurture the team with a different approach as I stated previously. So yeah, that's my point. Thank you.
Right, thank you. So let's move on to some questions from the participants, from the audience. Already have some questions coming in. The first one is from Celiana. So the question is directed to Jing, and her question is, what are the biggest challenges in technological innovation in general for industrial recovery, and how to overcome them?
Okay, all right. What are the biggest challenges for technological innovations in the industry and how to overcome them? Okay, I would say this. I think technology might be overrated in certain understandings. Like people think technology, from what I understand from this question, if I'm not mistaken, technology is the solution. It's like the go-to thing. If an industry has a problem, I would say it's generally not because of technology. If an industry has a problem, it's generally because of something else, and technology is just a way of solving a particular problem. So let's say, for example, let's say COVID, right? Let's say the pandemic. So if you're a normal hospitality company and you're unable to find a way to carry on business during the pandemic, that's a problem. That's that can be an issue for your revenue. That can be an issue for the welfare of your employees, for your mission. Where technology comes in is, can you use technology to solve that problem? So can you use technology to, let's say, for example, find a way to keep your employees working remotely, right? Can you find a way to communicate and transact with your customers so that you can maintain a cash flow and pay your employees? Can you find a way to dialogue and maintain relationships with your partners, your vendors, and the external parties that support your business. That I think is how to essentially apply technology. Technology itself should, I don't know, never be like, the problem or like part of the issue. It's more like the problem is something, and then can you use technologies to support it? I've seen both sides of that. I've seen people who, let's say, they thought data science is a fun topic. Actually, data science is a great topic about that. So recently, probably in the past 5-10 years, we hear more and more about data science and data science this and data science that. And I was surprised the other day, I saw someone at Dyson, which is a vacuum cleaner company. Apparently you need data scientists for vacuum cleaners too. So that then calls to question, data science is a technology, but is it a technology necessary for everything? And the answer is probably no. You might not need data science to run a successful PR firm, right? You might not need data science to become a successful architect. So in those particular cases, I don't think the liberal application of technology is the best solution. But technology, on the other hand, let's take a different perspective. If you look at, let's say, the stock market recently, what's strange is most tech companies have been actually going up in value, a lot up in value, even before COVID. They're worth more after the pandemic than before the pandemic. And this isn't just like Zoom or a video conferencing company. This is like everything. This is like things like even Airbnb in the travel industry. That actually recently IPO'd. But a lot of tech companies have experienced essential growth. Google has experienced growth. Facebook's experienced growth. So then you have to start asking, okay, why? What am I missing here? And I think the bigger picture is happening now is that technology is enabling a lot more things that used to be done conventionally to happen. Like this conference is an exact aspect of that. If you're hearing my voice, if you're seeing my picture right now, that would have been only possible if we were in the same room before. And I would have actually created quite a lot of economic opportunity along the way. By plane tickets, everybody would have paid for gas to drive to the lecture hall. So all that expenditure to get a conference together, to have a discussion together, has been actually reduced so much in terms of the economic output that would have happened. So you can think of every time we have a webinar, that's less money that goes into gasoline. That's less money that goes into, let's say, a flight. That's less money that might go into a hotel. But it is more money that is actually going into the technology, like the program that we're using right now to host this webinar. So you are right in detecting that there is a shift in, let's say, the technological landscape and the reliance on technology. But as far as any industry goes, I think they'll have to decide for themselves what technology and what specific role technology will need to play in their success. That's my thoughts. Back to the moderator.
All right. So I just want to remind all the participants that you can, of course, submit your questions. Silahkan apabila ada pertanyaan, bisa langsung ditaruh di kolom chat di YouTube Live. Ada chat boxnya. Silahkan disampaikan di situ dan jangan lupa untuk mencantumkan nama dan juga institusinya. All right. So let's move on to the second question. It's from Abdi Mulya Lubis. So he has a question on what are the steps that we can do to change our thoughts and to, raise our willingness and our awareness to adapt to the current technological innovation. So he basically gives us a little bit of a context to his question. He basically says that for now he's living in Yogyakarta and he says that there's a potential when it comes to developing ideas about tourism and culinary industries, and he's thinking about how to place these ideas into motion, to start this idea, to realize this idea, and how he can use online technologies, digital technologies to market his products. And he's also asking what are the platforms, or what are the technologies that he can use to actualize his ideas and to basically market his projects. So, Jing, do you want to answer this, or Ara?
I'll give Ara a chance at it.
So for the management of mindset and first step to increase the awareness, I think it has to be starting. I would suggest doing a research first. Doing research in terms of what exactly that can how you visualize success looks like. So you have to be very assertive and certain regarding the features of how the success of your business. I heard it's going to be some business Mr. Abdi Mulia Lubis, yeah. So yeah, first step, I think you need to do a lot of research first regarding where exactly you want to go, which way you would like to going towards to. That's like the first thing I think. And by having a research, I think later on you can like add up more ideas, or you can actually eliminate ideas that you think doesn't really match or going through the values of yours. And that's I think how also you can get motivated and increasing your awareness on the planet. And to answer regarding the what exactly the right platforms, it's truly depends on again the preferences on what business or what exactly is the topic discussions or your plan that you'd like to build up first. So yeah, that's like from my side.
All right, Jing, do you want to answer about his questions on in regards of the platforms and how to actualize his ideas about the tourism industry in
Absolutely.
Jakarta?
Absolutely. That's I can get the sense that there's a young entrepreneur there. That's actually really exciting. So I think you've taken a good first step to just attend this webinar. I think this is a theme. First step is, it depends. I mean, if you're really ready to be an entrepreneur, I think the first step is to join a community of entrepreneurs. That is going to give you, I think, the fuel for your emotional and your skill and your leadership capability. It will set your mindset, I think, a little bit more towards the right way. Being an entrepreneur is I think very different from being any other type of role. It is exceedingly full of uncertainty if you don't know how to manage it, and it can overwhelm you emotionally. So I would say first step is probably, if you want to do this, start hanging out with other people who've done it before. Start hanging out with people who have been successful doing it before. That's a pretty good first step. After that, I think then what you'll start kind of learning through osmosis is you'll learn the values, you'll learn the lingo, what kind of language people use, and you'll learn the approaches just by being in this community. Once you have that, and at the same time as you're doing that, I think, like Ara said earlier, bias to action. I'm a little bit older now, so I like to plan and I like to research. I like to get things right because I can see over the horizon now. All right, I believe I can see over the horizon. I believe I can forecast what something is going to turn out to be like. But I'm assuming that you're young, that you're probably still in college or maybe just out of college. So the first thing I think you need to actually understand through a bit of experience whether or not this can be done. The platform and the product it's not so important if you understand the principle. Okay, the principle is actually pretty simple. Get a customer to buy your product. That's it, right? Like whether you get, let's say, a relative or you get a stranger on the street, just get somebody to buy your product. So much time, I think, could be spent on really thinking about the customer. And instead, people think more about like, oh, does my listing look right? Did I take the right photographs? Just really think about your customer. Your customer will give you clues about what you need to do, what platform you need to be on. Some websites and some, I don't know, like let's say you go to certain platforms. Let's say you go to, I don't know, Tokopedia. Tokopedia looks very, very different than, let's say, I don't know, let's say Carousel, right? And Carousel looks very different from Craigslist. And on each different platform, there are customers for whatever services and products people are selling. So if you want to have a certain product, if you want to, let's say, release a certain product, find the customer that like pretend you're going to buy that product. Let's say you're selling soap, right? So if you're selling soap, go to wherever you can buy soap. That's probably where you need to be. If you can do that, then it doesn't matter so much what platform you're on. You're hunting, right? So you need to think like the way that your query moves. If you can get inside the mindset of a customer and understand how they approach their search, if you can know how they evaluate if a product is any good or not, I think you're already going to be 10 times better just by that alone. So your second step is to understand your customer. I think your third step is persistence after that. You probably, I don't know what product you're trying to sell right now. I don't know what technology you're trying to use to sell it, but at some point, I think you're going to have to realize that, and this is true of everything, you probably don't have the best product yet, and you might not have the best product platform match yet. So you're going to need to persevere. This is the third step. You're going to need to be able to win some and lose a lot, and win some more and lose a little bit less, and then eventually win more and lose very little. So that's generally the progression of how you, I say, would mature in your business that you're trying to do. The technology aspect is a tool, I think, at the end of the day. It is there if you need it, but without a sound strategy, without persistence, without conventional skills, I'd say, the technology would be like a car without a driver, or like a machine without an operator. It wouldn't really serve you. So get your basics down first. Get your community right. Find your customer, and then persevere. With that and enough, I think, decent intelligence, I would say. Intelligence isn't even that important, I realize, for success as an entrepreneur. I see some entrepreneurs who are, they weren't the smartest people in their class, and they end up being a lot more wealthy than people who had been better than them in school. So I think it really comes down to those three parts as that's the best advice I can give for the moment.
I forgot to unmute myself. All right, so we already have more questions coming in. But before we move on to the second Q&A session, I just want to remind everyone, the audience to fill in the form for your e-certificate. Jadi teman-teman bisa masukin isi formnya di link ugm.id/sertif digitalk45 SERTIF digitalk 45. Dan teman-teman bisa memasukkan data diri teman-teman di situ, dan nanti untuk e-sertifikatnya akan diproses oleh panitia seperti itu. Linknya akan dibuka selama 1 jam, so make sure to fill in the form untuk memasukkan data diri teman-teman sekalian sebelum linknya ditutup ya. Once again, linknya hanya dibuka selama 1 jam, mulai jam 4.30. Seperti itu, jadi akan ditutup sekitar 5.30. Alright, so we already have some questions coming in for the second Q&A session. There are some questions directed to Ara related to HR. So let's proceed to these questions first. The first one is from Celiana. She asks how to ensure that human resources continue to work or get jobs when there is a technological disruption in the industry, and how we can stay relevant in every changing world in this digital era.
Okay, thank you. That's an interesting question. So thank you for asking the question. So basic points on how exactly to make sure that human resource itself is going to be sustainability is the agility to adapt with the technology disruptions. This idea, I think, originally needs to be applied in any type of profession, I think. As long as a human resource can actually adapt with the technology disruptions, I believe that it can sustain pretty much long. And what exactly the example for specifically in human resource that needs to be adapting with the technology is talent identification, talent management, and talent nurture. So for talent identification itself, let's say that we right now have the AI and such to actually determine some sort of filters on the new entry people candidate tracking that is coming in for applying in the positions. I believe that within that type of tools and online platforms that we created as an AI, we still do need a human resource to keep track everything is on tracks. Because again, there might be some couple of errors, there might be like some sort of things that is not aligning after resetting the system itself. So we still need a human resource in terms of identifications. Plus, that's like something very basic in terms of selections of a candidate. Let's say that's from the CP1. But I believe that human resource itself needs to sustain in a way of talent identifications by more sophisticated way. So it's talent identification itself, selections of candidates is not as simple as, okay, so this is the education background, okay, so this is not a pass, okay, so this is the working experience, so it's not meeting the requirements. But it's way more on that. I think talent identifications is very sophisticated in a way that you need to have an actual interactions with the person to truly understand what are the potentials that a candidate bring in, what are the capability, a capacity, the skill set that they might doesn't even understand or aware yet that they can capable to do stuff. So I think in that sense, that is required technology to help, but it's also still required the human resource people to assessing those points. So yeah, I think originally to conclude my answers is that I think every professions, not just in human resource, needs to agile enough to adapt with the technology disruption. So yeah.
Right. That's very interesting. So basically, if you are good enough to adapt, you are good enough to, just to basically try to catch up, try to keep up with the technology, then you will be able to survive at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, everyone needs an HR, every company needs an HR. It's about how you adapt to the new technologies. And second question is still related to human resources. The second question is from Francis Steven. He asks about your experience, Ara, on how to choose the employee that can develop performance in the organization.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, basically, first thing first, we need to be very assertive and defined about what is the company culture, vision, missions, and goals. So from there, we can actually putting or having a set of the principles on what type of candidates or what type of teams that really relevant in the teams, or what really we think and we see can actually work very well within the team and the company. And from that side, we can define a characters, we can define a background, we can define a working experience or any type of experience that can match the company vision, mission, culture, and also goal. So in that sense, after we find the person based on their assessment of the, again, talent identification based on backgrounds and characters, we of course need to see the performance. So we not necessarily like having a candidates coming in, we see that there's potentials and everything. I would say talent, human resource itself still have some risk, even though you like passing up candidates that you think are very good culture fit or very potentials. At some point, if you don't really keep track on their performance during the entire time in the company, that might be, like going off track in sometimes. So in that sense, that's the roles of human resource itself. Where exactly that human resource need to keep on reviewing the results, reviewing the performances itself. So it's not like I think that's also where the human resource person roles coming in outside the technology, that we have to have the sense of being very sensitive about how exactly development of the mental state of a person, and then their character itself, is their character actually developing or gain That's where we can see also. Another thing is that's more on the personality characters, right? Another thing, of course, about the works, as I stated, about result review. For example, in Bukit Vista, we measure each performances of our team member using OKR. What is OKR? OKR is objective key result. So within every single month, each individuals in our teams define what exactly their goals during the month, what exactly they're trying to achieve in that month. And by that OKR, not just the human resource, but everyone can see, and it's very visible to everyone to see. And checked whether this person actually developed within the company, whether the performance actually keep on increasing or not. So yeah, that's one of the tools. As I stated, it required both the technology, which is the OKR part that we created for each individuals, and the other part is the HR that actually reviewing the performances. So from there, usually human resource have many programs, whether it's going to be having a session one-on-one with the person, to actually delivering their thoughts, sharing ideas within the human resource and the team, giving advices, suggestions. And yeah, that's how I think that a person can develop performance within the organizations.
All right, thank you for the answer. And we have, wait for a second. All right, we have one last question for this Q&A session. One last question from the audience. It's from Nurhida Hayani, and the question is for Jing and Ara. So these digital skills are very important in various sectors of human life. However, there are still some people who do not realize the importance of digital skills. Then the question is, what is the way to make the person aware of putting digital skills as something important to have, especially in today's digital era? Jing, do you want to start first?
Sure. I don't. You know what? Actually, that's a funny question because we don't work too many times with young people who have this problem, but some of our partners who own properties tend to prefer maybe traditional methods. I don't know what to say in this particular case. If you don't like what would happen if, let's say, for example, what would happen right now if you went into a newspaper and looked for a job, right? That's where, when I was growing up, that's where everybody went to look for jobs, right? But if you didn't ever feel the necessity or the urgency to stop looking in newspapers and maybe start looking on online sources for jobs, you probably won't have a job, right? So I don't know if there is a way to persuade people who don't cross over the digital divide to cross over. The way I see it is maybe it's a little bit more like natural selection, that essentially if everybody is moving this way, right? If the sellers are going there, the buyers are going there, and they're leaving the space, and what's left over is nothing, right? So you kind of need to go where the markets are going. You kind of need to go where the activity is going. In fact, I wouldn't worry too much about this anymore. Time generally will solve this particular issue. If somebody, okay, this is the kind of the secret. Let's say Ara just earlier was answering a question about HR and the need to innovate and the need to be agile in order to keep up. But I think it's important to remember that this agility doesn't mean you have to change in a day. It's not like, oh, hey, it was one way yesterday and it's going to be something completely different tomorrow. Changes generally take years, or in the case of COVID, months, for things to actually spin down one way and spin up another way. So during this time, I think, there's a lot of people who want you to use these digital platforms. Your teachers might want to use it. People who want to sell you stuff might want to use it. You might want to go on this digital platform to access content that is not available any other way. So I don't know I don't know if a person just doesn't relate to those facts, there's not too much more that you can say. I think it's like here's where the world is, right? That being said, I think it's more about expectation setting. there is always going to be people who, let's say, don't want to follow a certain thing, right? Maybe Indonesia is a democracy and somebody wants to bring back the king, right? So there's probably still a few people out there. There's not too much you can do about that particular segment, except have the expectation that there's probably just going to be, no matter what you do, there's probably going to be a segment of people who just won't want to change. But if you're talking more about how do you encourage more people to change who are persuadable, I would say just the results. Show the results. Hey, I can find this person. Oh, just the other day, right? I was looking for a Chinese tutor for my daughter. So, where do you go? I mean, there's nobody around in Jimbaran in Bali to do this. So I went online. I had to go online. That was the only place. So I think the results generally prove themselves, given that the person is reasonable and rational. But if a person doesn't want to, the only thing you can do is just set your expectation for, okay, there's going to be a certain number of people who probably don't want anything digital, and that's okay. I mean, this isn't a dictatorship, right? We don't need to force people to believe something they don't want to do. But that's the most reasonable explanation I can give.
Right. Ara, do you want to add something to that?
Yes, I would echo what Mr. Jing just mentioned regarding showing success. It's not just what they said, a way of making people believe or see feasibility of the success itself. But I believe this is part of motivating the person itself that is maybe professionally having a difficulties on keeping up with the digital era itself. It's also motivating them to actually improving themselves, not and see like, okay, so yeah, it's kind of it might be their blind spot too on how the digital era can make a change due to their goals. Let's say that they do it, usually a person very enjoying their doing things on conventional way. I think in a way showing success, not just showing how it's going to be done online, but also showing the success, it's going to make them thinking that, oh yeah, right. So there's another way of doing it, and it's actually the better one. And in that sense, I think it will increase their motivations to learn and to keep up with the digital era itself. Another thing what we can do is that the way of the delivery on the digital things, to introducing a new way to a person that might feel still strange about it, and simplify. So how the more you simplify the way that you delivering with a very simplified way, I think that's going to help the person and going to make the learning process even faster and make them digest things better than just like, doing it in a just casual way. So I think two things that matter most, as I stated before, showing the success to motivate the person, that is like the willingness from within, and another things about the delivery, how you as a person that trying to encourage others to actually involved in the digital era in a very simple way. In that sense, I believe it can work not just like to help them change, but also change them very effectively. So yeah, that's like from my side.
All right, thank you. So that's the last question from our audience, and now we are reaching the end of our event today. But before we close our session, I actually have one very last question just to wrap everything up. So we've been talking about like different online platforms, different ways to upskill, to learn, especially in this digital era. I just want to ask if Bukit Vista also has some programs when it comes to, sharing knowledge or developing the talents in Indonesia. So please share with us.
Okay, so I think Mr. Jing would love to talk about what are our programs. I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you very much. If you visit our YouTube page, you'll find like a wealth of material that we've gathered from a lot of professional networking sessions with people from companies like Airbnb, Uber, Brown University, all over the world, right? People with really deep experiences, and it's on our YouTube channel for free. We put it up because we want to attract applicants to work here. So that's one source. A lot of our, if you go to our other YouTube channel, we have essentially our meetings, which are conducted daily here. And those are also free. If anybody wants to learn about, get some experience of what it's like to work in an innovative startup. So that's another free resource. We have internship programs, and if you want to, I guess, learn the skill and complete the feedback loop, you can apply as an intern and get some real world experience and also skills from that too as well. Let's see, what else do we do? We speak very often at these webinars. Oh, of course, we have our own webinar program, BBE Talk, and we're hosting Quincy Larson, who is the founder of Free Code Camp, this online portal to learn coding skills for free. He's going to be our speaker at the next Bukit Vista event later on this month. So those are also things that we do. I believe deeply in the mission of our company, which is to inspire delight through hospitality innovations that possibly transform, in this particular case, potential employees. So we are always looking for ways to uplift the knowledge and understanding across Asia. People who want to learn, people who want to innovate, people who want to do new things and that are exciting. So I myself am available. If you want to reach out to me on LinkedIn, you say, hey, look, Jing, I want to learn about this. I will respond to your message, or my team, because my team's managing my LinkedIn at this point, and I'll be happy to put guidance forward where it's possible. I've received a lot of guidance from people who are generous to share their time and wisdom with me, so I feel obligated to return. It's all part of good karma, I suppose. So those are, you can look it up, just on the internet right now if you want. Go to our website. A lot of materials there are actually for learning. That's my answer to the question. Back to the moderator.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So, Ara, do you have something to add to that, or that's enough?
Basically, what Mr. Jing mentions is the programs that we have externally. As in, maybe this is for everyone that is watching. Part of the Vista vision and missions is that we want to transport deeper, inspire the light everywhere, every time